Welcome back to the Paddy Power Poker School as we continue the Sit and Go strategy series. When you decide which game to play within a comfortable bankroll range for you, then you will want to look at each Sit and Go game divided into stages, because each stage actually forces the remaining players to usually drastically change their strategy. In this video, we will start with the early stage strategy, which may seem rather straightforward. Play mostly strong starting hands and avoid out-of-position calling. Also, avoid draws, especially expensive ones. They can turn out to be difficult decisions. And lastly, wait for the crowd to leave. A good number of your opponents will essentially thin the field with poor decisions and loose play in the early stages. Just stay out of their way because you want to be around long enough to get to the bubble and outplay your opponents. More on that later in other videos. So let's start with some real hands that I actually played in a Sit and Go tournament here at Paddy Power Poker. Here, my position is good, but my hand is weak, and there are still 3 players to act behind me. In the early stages, if I call and there is another raise in the blinds with at least one caller, I am already facing a tough decision in that I will probably be getting good odds to call. But this is a drawing hand, and that means the flop has to be very good for me. In Sit and Go tournaments, this is a good way to burn chips as opposed to cash games where you can justify calling long shots with the expectation of taking down a monster pot once in a while. Here, in the early stages of a Sit and Go tournament, this is a fold because you want to be preserving your stack at this stage. Here I folded the King 7 of spades, which looks like it has potential to a lot of players in late position, but not in Sit and Go's. Again, a good cash game risk, but a hopeful call at best for Sit and Go early stages. Just fold these hands. Here with my pocket 5s, I was able to limp in against 4 opponents. That's a perfect scenario for set mining. However, there are 3 overcards and a couple of draws on board. Notice also that one of my outs is the 5 of diamonds, which would put a flush on board. Don't bluff here. Instead, get out of these kind of pots as fast as you can. On the other hand, pocket jacks is definitely a raising hand from any position. So I raise here to 80, which, looks like 4 times the big blind. Actually, that was too much. 2.5 or 3 times the big blind for early stages is sufficient. This hand was 1 uncontested, and that's going to happen too. Now I have Ace-10 offsuit in the small blind. If this had been folded to me, I would likely have raised the big blind, hoping to take the blinds or perhaps win a small pot. Ace-10 offsuit is not a hand, however, that you want to play for a big pot in the early stages, unless you have to use it to shove all in when you are a short stack. But calling an early position raise here is not a good play at all. The flop is likely going to miss this Ace-10, and even if it does hit, I could very well be dominated and thus committed to a hand where I am far behind. With hands like these, you want to be the one raising, not calling. For example, with this Ace-Queen where the play was folded to me in the small blind. I should have raised pre-flop instead of limping, but I still likely have the best hand after the flop here, so I decide to bet out. Now, if my opponent decides to re-raise me, then this is still an easy fold, and I should then kick myself for not raising pre-flop. If you notice here, my stack has not been going anywhere in these last few hands, and in fact, most times in Sit and Go tournaments, you too will be sitting on the sidelines just paying the blinds. Although this is tight, even passive play, it is also winning play. Remember, your objective is to get close enough to the money to outplay your opponents. In the next video, we will see where big, bold decisions come into your Sit and Go strategy. See you next time. If you want to see more poker video tutorials, visit the Poker School at paddypowerpoker.com.